The first 6 verses. Revelation chapter 3. To the angel of the church in Sardis write, These are the words of him who holds the 7 spirits of God and the 7 stars. I know your deeds. You have a reputation of being alive, but you are dead. Wake up, strengthen what remains and is about to die, for I have not found your deeds complete in the sight of my God. Remember therefore what you have received and heard, obey it and repent. But if you do not wake up, I will come like a thief, and you will not know at what time I will come to you. Yet you have a few people in Sardis who have not soiled their clothes. They walk with me, dressed in white, for they are worthy. He who overcomes will be like them, be dressed in white. I will never blot his name from the book of life, but will acknowledge his name before my fathers and his angels. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. Be careful who you listen to. I don't know how you normally listen. I can't make that work. So I have these headphones that I found one time, and they're some kind of fancy noise-canceling headphones that I would have never spent my own money to buy. And now, to let you know, when I found them, I tried to do the right thing. Actually found them on a cruise ship, and it was only the second time that ship had ever sailed the 7 seas. So I thought this ought to be real easy. You know, when you get ready to check out of somewhere, you look and make sure you got everything. And I don't know if y'all do this or not, but I always look under the bed to make sure I didn't kick something under the bed, right? Well, underneath the bed were this really nice set of Bose noise-canceling headphones. And I thought, you know, whoever was on this cruise the last time left those there. And I'd like to give them back, because they're not mine. So I went down and I asked, hey, can I give these back? And the guy down there said, I said, this is only the second cruise of the ship. It had to be the guys that were before us. He said, well, I can't tell you who that is. I said, I don't need to know. Will you send them back to them? And he said, no, I won't. I said, so if I give them to you, what's most likely to happen? He said, somebody here is going to take them home. And I said, well, never mind. So I held on to them, you know, because I thought, anyway, if you put those things on and you start listening to something, you can't hear anything else really that's going on. I mean, they're supposed to just put you in, you just listen, and it's quiet all around you. Now, I'm just asking, and none of you may, do any of you have kids who have noise-canceling headphones who play computer games? Besides me. Because if Ry Tyler is on his noise-canceling headphones, and I go to the foot of the stairs and I ask him a question, you know what immediately follows after that? What? Because he can't hear. Because he's listening to his computer. That's okay. It's all right. I know your deeds. You have a name that you are alive, but you're dead. A name there is a way of saying you have a reputation. You've got a reputation that you've got really good stuff going on, and then Jesus looks at them and says, probably not really, not so much. You have to be really careful who you listen to. You have to be really careful who gives you advice. You have to be really careful of what you do with all of those nice things people say. For example, I have been here almost 13 years. Do y'all realize that? Almost 13 years. Now, I did this the other day, and I'm not very good at math, so somebody get the little calculator out. What is 13 times 52? 13 times 52. Somebody's got to know that, even in their head. 617. 676. 676. That's just Sunday morning. Now, I missed a couple in there, usually not more than 2 to 3 weeks in a year, so back maybe 36 out of that, so maybe 650. 650 times I have sat here and preached you a message from God's Word. Wow. Making me feel really old. Standing at the back of the auditorium, roughly 650 times, I have yet for one of you to walk out the back door and say, that is absolutely the worst sermon I have ever heard. Not once has anybody ever said those words to me. Now, okay. Now, I believe that there have been times that probably sitting there you thought, man, what in the world is he talking about? You got to really be careful who you listen to. You really do. Even in our community, does our church have a reputation? If you do not know that our church has a reputation in this community. We're benevolent. We're friendly. We are forgiving. We are understanding. We are very accepting. If you go around and ask people what they kind of know about Clarksville Highway, because I tried, those are some of the words that you would get. Those are all great words. But let me ask you a question. Is that the opinion that matters? Does it matter? Oh, I mean, it matters what somebody says in our community, but is that the measure by which we're going to be judged? Is that the standard to which we're trying to achieve? No. What would God say about our church? If we were to get this message, what would we hear? And I just want to encourage, don't put too much stock in what everybody has to say. They had works. I know your works. They had good things going on, but they were dead. They lacked something. Doing isn't necessarily the same as being. God is not just looking for somebody who does something or says something. Remember Old Testament verses like, these people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. God's not looking for passionless, ritualistic, uninspired people just doing stuff. God is looking for people who will serve Him from the bottom of their hearts. And even though other people can have an idea of who we are, we're not to listen to them. We're to simply ask the question, what would God think of us? Now, they had a reputation, so they had done some really good stuff, right? But that's kind of the other part of the equation. You can't rest on past accomplishments, can you? What if we just decide, you know what, we've done some really good stuff, so from now on, we just really won't do much of anything. Because we got a lot of good stuff going for us. How would that work out? Well, it'd probably work out so well, would it? You know, I fed Rye yesterday. I didn't. I wasn't there. Friday? What if, you know, fed him for a while. I just won't feed him anymore. That's enough. Dad, how many times have you bought me dinner? Hundreds. You know, I take Dad out now, and so I pay, right? What's the first thing that he says? Oh, I'm not going to let you buy my... I didn't come up here to freeload for you to buy my dinner. I'm going to pay you for my... How many times has he bought my dinner? I mean, I got a long way to go to catch up. Now, that's not to say I won't catch up one day, because I don't know how long I have to take care of him. But that's okay. If I catch up, I catch up. What if we just say, well, I ate yesterday, I won't ever eat again? Well, that's not going to work, is it? Well, we did great things in the past. I think we're just kind of done. No. It's not what we've done there, even though we've done great things. What are we going to do in the future? Where are we headed? What's our vision? What's our plan? Kind of, what are you doing? What are you doing now? So take that out of a church question, put it into a personal question. What are you doing now? Are you serving? And you say, well, I've served in the past. Now, let me say a couple of things before I go too far here, okay? Do you realize that we have had some teachers who have been teaching class for years and years and years consecutively? I mean, like almost forever. Now, I want to be very careful that they kind of understand what I am saying, because I really appreciate everything that they've done in the past, and I am really going to appreciate everything that they do in the future. But as an individual, what are you doing now? I mean, if you were to look at your service to God right now and say, okay, where do I match up? What am I doing? Not what kind of reputation have I had, but where am I right now? Would God say that you're alive? Are you a hand or a foot or an arm or a leg? Are you an eye? Are you an ear? Do you have a purpose in the body? Do you have something that you're doing? Now, when I say that, I want to be very clear about this. You're not working for me. You're not working to help me. You're not working for the elders. You're not working to help the elders. That's not who you're serving when you do something. When you do something, you're serving Jesus. So what are you doing right now to serve Him? And I got this little phrase that I've been thinking about, and I used it a couple of months ago. Nobody has to do everything. Everybody has to do something. You know, that's very true for our church. That is a very true statement for who we are. It takes a lot of pieces. It's a lot of cogs in the gears to make everything work. Do you want one person to do everything? No. Do you want everybody to have a part? Yes, we do. So if God were to look at you, or God were to look at our church and say, okay, you got a reputation for being alive. Are you really alive? Do you have a passion about doing the things that you need to be doing? So he says, wake up and strengthen the thing that remained. Sardis the original city sat on an acropolis, which is a very high hill. The sides are pretty steep. It's pretty hard for anybody to get to the acropolis of the city. In fact, the acropolis kind of hindered growth, so you couldn't grow a lot on top of that acropolis. So later the city began to spread out below the acropolis. But at this point in history, most of the city, and the story I'm going to tell you, which is like 549 BC, most of the city is up on this acropolis. It's up high. There's a way up. It's got a kind of a big gate there. Kind of got to go through that gate to get into the city. Not many people had the ability to do that, so it's a pretty safe place to be. Croesus decides that he will attack Cyrus the Great. He gets a vision from a Delphi, from a prophetess that said, if you'll cross the river, you can conquer a great kingdom. So he goes across the river to fight. Does a pretty good job. They're kind of not really in a stalemate, but a little bit. Croesus, he goes back across, goes up into the city, stays in Sardis, boards up the gate. Walls are pretty steep. Doesn't really expect Cyrus to follow him, and he thinks, I'm pretty safe. So they get there, and they're at the bottom of the Acropolis, and of course they cannot descend the sides because they're too steep. So Croesus has a soldier. And a soldier's up on the wall. I'm kind of making part of it. I'm not making this story up, just kind of imbibing it just a little bit, enlarging it. This is what happens. He drops his helmet. Goes off, boom, 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 bounces down the wall. Now, if you're a soldier and you drop your helmet, you need it, right? So what do you think you ought to do if you drop your helmet over the side? You ought to go get it. So he, knowing this little secret path, shimmies down the side, gets his helmet, shimmies back up. Cyrus the Great's army, one of the guys sees him shimmy up the side. So that night, what does he do? He takes a group of soldiers, they shimmy up the side. Everybody up there is not paying attention because we're safe, right? And he takes the city. That ought not to happen again, should it? 216 BC. Retreated up on top of the city. We're safe. Got the steep walls, remember? Except this time, it's another king. And at night, about 15 people, Antiochus the Great, goes up the crevice in the wall, takes the city. Twice in history, it falls the same way. About 17 AD, part of the city is destroyed by earthquake. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, the earthquake comes, destroys part of the city. Sudden, unexpected danger. When Jesus says to them, wake up, be alert, keep your eyes open, watch out, you think it ought to have resonated with them? I think probably so. Because twice, 3 times, disaster had come upon them unexpectedly. So when you forget danger's approaching, can it generally get you? Anybody ever been working on something and you get a little careless? So you smash your finger? Or you grab 2 wires you weren't supposed to grab and get a little bit shocked? Or you're working with something and you forget to be as cautious as you need to be? Or you're doing something and you think, well, I've never needed safety glasses before. I don't know why I would need them now. And something happens. And all of a sudden danger reaches up and it grabs you. And we say things, well, it's not going to happen to us. Right? Isn't that what we say right before disaster strikes? Well, it's not going to happen to me. So what do you do to remain alert? And this is kind of the idea, to be alert or to be vigilant, to be watching, to be ready. So here's a question. How do we get lazy to begin with? We kind of settle into a routine, don't we? Doing things the same way that we've always done them. But this is the way it's always happened. And it's always worked. So we kind of settle into a routine. We get comfortable. We lose focus. We forget what we're supposed to be about. And then all of a sudden, it's just like we are spiritually asleep. Now, that'd never happen to churches, would it? It never happened. That's facetious, by the way. It never happened to individuals, would it? Yeah, it does. Let's just be honest. Can it happen to us? Yeah. Yeah. And I think in those times, Jesus would just shake us and He would say, wake up. What are you doing? Be alert. Be ready. Be watching. So how do you renew that kind of focus? Well, you spend a lot of time talking to God. You spend a lot of time listening to God. And you do something. You decide that you're going to be active, and you decide that you're going to be a part, and you're watching and you're looking. Lack of spiritual vigilance kind of plagues churches. Because we get into this routine that everything's going to be the same, what we've always done is what's always going to happen, and we're always good, and everything's going to be fine. And all of a sudden, we just find ourselves in a spiritual stupor. We show up for church on Sunday morning, we listen to a sermon, maybe listen to a Bible class, we go off back home, we get involved in all the things that we want to get involved in, and it becomes just a piece of the pie or just a little part of the puzzle, and it begins to lose its focus and begins to lose its meaning, and it begins to lose its importance, and then all of a sudden, we're just kind of there. And God would say the same thing to us that He says to that church. Wake up. Wake up. And then He tells them to finish the race. I haven't found your works complete. They started out to do something really good. And then after they started out to do something really good, they just didn't get finished. They just didn't finish the race. They just didn't finish the thing that they were going to do. Now, this is college football season, right? What's one of the stats that people look at to see if anybody's a great quarterback? Even a pro quarterback. Look back at the Peyton Mannings and the Tom Brady's. One of the things they look at, how many fourth quarter comebacks did they make? How many fourth quarter comebacks? How many times did they finish the game? Any important football game has been decided this year because somebody had the lead going into the fourth quarter and just didn't finish the game. They didn't play all of the minutes they were supposed to play. So we have phrases for that, don't we? Any basketball fans in here? You ever seen a basketball team lead 3 quarters and just fall apart in the fourth quarter? Because they didn't finish. They started out great, but they just didn't finish. Can Christians start out great and then just not finish? Maybe we get tired. Maybe we get discouraged. Maybe we lose our focus. Maybe we forget what we're doing. And we just don't finish. So God says to these people at Sardis, you just didn't finish. You just didn't finish. Now, I don't want to scare you, but here's the key. Satan doesn't care what stage of life he captures you as long as he captures you. Get that? He doesn't care at what stage of life he gets you as long as he gets you. Starting out great doesn't mean success. Are you going to finish great? Now, I don't mean by finish great, you have to be running at the same speed you did when you started. When we went to the Boston Marathon, we were like mile marker 20-something. Okay? And as I was standing there watching these guys run back, the first thing that was in my mind is, okay, mile marker 20-something. Number one, I would not have still been running. Right? I might have been walking fast or slow, but I wouldn't have even had a jogging motion when I came by at mile 20-something. So I went down there that day, and there's a picture on my iPhone. I crossed the finish line of the Boston Marathon. Just want y'all to know. Crossed the finish line. I started like, if this is the finish line, I started right here. I went right across, just like that. But I crossed the finish line. Would the person who ran that marathon say, yeah, you really crossed the finish line? No, they'd be saying, hey man, that's not crossed the finish line. Yeah, you crossed it, but you didn't really run that race. No, I didn't run that race. You running a race that's more important than that? Can you maintain your discipline? Can you maintain who you are to cross the finish line? See, something strikes me about the church at Sardis. He's talked about all of these things and all of these reactions that they've had and all these different teachings that are in some of the other churches. Do you realize there's not one of those in Sardis? I wonder if they are trying to fly under the radar so quietly that nobody even knows that they exist. I wonder if what Jesus is saying is, you got no passion for your message anymore. You're just trying to blend in so much they don't even know that you're there. Are we trying to blend in so much that people don't even know we're here? Are we passionate about our message? Are you passionate about other people learning about Jesus? Are you passionate about moments like today when Vaughn was baptized? If you weren't here Wednesday night, Xander Grooms was baptized. That's just so cool. Are you passionate for moments like that? Is that the stuff that you get excited about? Now, I'm trying not to stomp on your toes too bad here, okay? But were you more excited about Tennessee winning yesterday than you were about Xander and Vaughn becoming Christians this morning? Is there a team that you're watching that you think, boy, my fantasy football team, baby, if that thing will just win? What do you get really, really excited about? Do you realize that those two young men were baptized into Jesus? They are going to live forever in God's kingdom. They have received the gift of the Holy Spirit. They have been granted eternal life. They have begun on a journey that is so incredible. Are we excited about moments like that? You want to see some more of those moments? Because they don't happen by accident. They happen by people being passionate about the message that they have to present. You know where they got that message? Some of it they got at home. Some of it they got because some of you were teaching Bible classes for them. Some of it they got because you were an encouragement or a pat on the back. Maybe you went to see about. There are 1,000 different ways that you impact those lives of those young men. You excited about those moments? I'm really excited that Kent and Cindy Mears went and talked to Jim and Vicki Tucker about being believers in Jesus. I'm excited about that today. You excited about that? I'm sorry for Doug's loss. I am. My heart bleeds for Doug. He's sitting. My heart bleeds for him today. But you know what? I am so thankful that someone impacted his life with the message of Jesus. Are you excited about that? Finish the race. What are you passionate about? And I will never, and this is, there's not even a possibility, I will never blot his name out of the book of life, the one who overcomes. Because he's dressed in white. Dressed in white. What kind of clothes you have on? Anybody get up this morning and say, I'm going to put on the dirtiest clothes I've got to go to church this morning? Anybody go to the dirty? I'm not going to ask that. Somebody might have gone to the dirty clothes, took the shirt out, put it on. What do we usually do when the clothes get dirty? But typically we wash them, right? We get them clean. So he says, you know what? There's some people in Sardis who haven't gotten their clothes dirty. What does he mean by that? They haven't become a part of that worldly lifestyle. They haven't compromised their faith in Jesus. They haven't compromised their message. They are going to remain true to me no matter what happens around them. They are pure and they are holy and they are clothed in white. They have not gotten their clothes dirty. And I can't answer this question for any of you. You have to answer it for yourself. Did you get your clothes dirty? With respect to this world, are you living a life of purity? Are you dressed in white? And those that overcome, that are dressed in white, that are holy, their name's going in the book of life, and their name will never ever be blotted or whitewashed out of the book. Their name is written and it won't be unwritten. No eraser. Because they are holy. And they're dressed in white. And God calls them His own. And isn't at the end of that letter wonderful when Jesus says about those who are dressed in white, whose name is written in the book of life, I will confess His name. The name of the person who's dressed in white. And his can be his or her, okay? I will confess his or her name before my Father and before His angels. Did you hear what Vaughn did a few minutes ago? If you were here Wednesday night, did you hear what Xander did? Do you believe Jesus is the Son of God? Yes. Yes. Are you willing to confess His name? Not just a word. Not just a word. Are you willing to confess His name as a lifestyle? Will you say, I believe Jesus is the Son of God? Not just a word. When you walk out and you're at work tomorrow or wherever you are or whatever you're doing or whether you're in school, no matter where you are tomorrow, will your life look like somebody who says, I believe Jesus is the Son of God? Because if you live a life of confession, Jesus will confess your name before the Father. One day, if we finish the race, if we don't give up, if we remain vigilant, we will stand before God's throne and Jesus will look at us and say, I confess His name. I acknowledge that He is one of mine. A few minutes ago, Vaughn and I were in the little room over here on the side. It was kind of quiet. And I said, Vaughn, from this day forward, never make a decision without taking into account its eternal consequence. Always walking a way that honors Jesus as the Son of God. Sardis. Lazy. Forgot who they were. Lost their focus. Is that going to be us? Is that going to be you? If you need to respond to the invitation in some way, we're going to ask you to do that while we stand and sing.